PPL Live is here. Gino the Gent is here. Week 9 is here, and we're ready to recap Week 8 and get us ready for the Week 9 matchups as interconference warfare has officially ended, and we are going back into our respective Alpha and Omega conferences to decide conference champions and get ready for the final four. Recap of Week 8. The Argonauts end the Comeback Kids 129-73 as the dearly departed kids will no longer be with us. The Mean Machine scores 154 points against their bitter rivals Appease the Gods 141 in a big win. Squad Underestimated continues to show that they are the team of 2018 as they win 131 to the United Players 96. Only for the Boss leaves no doubt 161 to Patty's Twins 115. And the champions, the Gaff Attack, continue with their winning ways, stretching their winning streak to 5 as they defeat the Baby Gas team, who was on a 3-game winning streak, 124-9. Congratulations to our Leave No Doubt Player of the Week, James Conner. James was the top dog in the Pittsburgh offense last weekend, running for 146 yards, catching 66 more, and scoring 2 touchdowns to lead the Argonauts over the dearly departed Comeback Kids. Segueing us into our first matchup, we have Appease the Gods taking on the Argonauts. All right, Athens and Sparta clash again in this annual frenemy matchup between the Argonauts and Appease the Gods. Both of these teams are the winningest teams in league history. I know ATG struggling this year may make some people forget, but Appease the Gods has been one of the winningest teams throughout league history. Looking at this matchup, it actually starts up at the top. We've got Drew Brees and Jared Goff, 2 quarterbacks who are capable of a high-scoring game against defenses that may give up some points. Being that those 2 guys are playing each other, the top of that matchup should be very, very interesting. Looking along the lines for ATG, I'm looking at Mike Evans. It's a huge plus that Ryan Fitzpatrick is coming in for Mike Evans. Although he and Jameis Winston played well together, he and Ryan Fitzpatrick's rapport was on another level. I think that Mike Evans is probably due for another big day, especially now that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy pulling the trigger. Joe Mixon is a guy that I love for ATG. We gave him a lot of props last week. He will not be in the lineup for Appease the Gods. And that could hurt them because he's become their best, I would say he's their best running back by far. And he may be becoming one of their best skill possession players, period. Chris Carson had a pretty good week. Rob Gronkowski, he still needs to get back to full health. And Lamar Miller is he's starting to reemerge. Now that the Texans are starting to figure out who exactly they are, they're 5-2. They're becoming more and more confident by the week. And Deshaun Watson is really playing well from the pocket. I think that's actually beginning to help their running game, as well as an easy schedule. Denver's run defense is not very good. Obviously, they're going to have to replace the running back position. It looks like Jordan Howard would be an option for ATG there. But maybe not, because Adrian Peterson had a huge day last week. He really showed that, he's ageless. Adrian Peterson is one of the most impressive not just football players, but athletes I've ever seen as far as the way he's able to continue to produce even at this latter stage of his career. So I would suspect that ATG is going to give him a run. Now, on the Argonaut side, they did make the trade for Jared Goff. It paid dividends immediately. They're getting a quarterback in probably the top offense in pro football. That's something that putting that on a team like the Argonauts is going to really make them formidable. James Conner, we talked about the Leave No Doubt Player of the Week. It was Mr. Conner, and he continues to make this situation regarding the Argonauts and Le'Veon Bell very, very interesting. Conner is not going to be a guy who's going to go away when Bell comes back. So Bell's value with the Steelers has been completely compromised. He probably won't be on the roster next year, and Conner, for long-term play, is an Argonaut for sure. You never know how that's going to affect the end of this season. If they're going to go to a committee system, that would probably put the Argonauts at a huge disadvantage. Now, Julio Jones comes back into the lineup. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year, but he still continues to produce. And that's the thing about Julio. He cannot score touchdowns and still produce at elite levels. Devontae Adams was awesome. His route running and his hands are just great. You pair that with Aaron Rodgers, and you get what you got there with that. Looking at this matchup, it does scream the Argonauts. And I think that they are the better team. I'm going to go with the Argonauts. I got the Argonauts winning this matchup 124-112. Okay. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the Gaff Attack taking on the newly christened Skull Army. All right. Welcome our newest owner to the PPL. He's very, very enthusiastic, and he's a guy that is going to be in it for the long run. The Comeback Kids learned the hard way that the PPL is not for the weak-hearted. You got to come strong every week if you want to survive in this league. And let's go to the team that effectively ended the Comeback Kids in the Pantheon Cup last year, the Gaff Attack. They've been the top team in the league all year long behind Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley and DeAndre Hopkins. They're probably the best receiver running back combo in the game right now. Brandon Cooks and the LA Rams defense obviously shows that the Gaff loves his Rams, and he even stated that he would have loved to have Jared Goff on his team. So he's very, very Ram heavy, and now the dependence on that, while it's working now, you never know how things will turn out. Ertz is on a bye. That's a big, not a big setback, but it does make a difference for the Gaff because he's able to score so many points from a position that other people are not. Now, on the Skulls side of it, they are a newly formed team. They are basically dealing with the scraps of the Comeback Kids, so it is going to be tough for them. They're going to do things their way. Looks like they're going to go with Jarvis Landry, and they picked up Dion Lewis to shore up their scoring in the flex position. Dion is a guy who could be a quality play late against the Dallas Cowboys, because if they're behind, Mariota will go to Lewis. I'm looking at Kenyon Drake. He's having a great season despite not getting the fanfare that he deserves. And Golden Tate was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Alshon Jeffrey's already on the Eagles, so it may behoove the Skulls to maybe look at a trade and try to bolster this offensive lineup. That being said, this matchup screams the Gaff right now. They've got the better team by far on paper, and I'm going to go with the Gaff Attack. I got the Gaff Attack winning this matchup 129-108. Moving on to our next matchup, we've got Patty's Twins taking on the United Players, the Destroyers. Alrighty, both teams come into this matchup. It's a must-win for both teams. The United Players fell back to earth after leaving No Doubt against the Argo. They put up 174, and then they fell to a respectable, I believe, 115. But that doesn't mean that this team is a one-week wonder. This is a team that is in position to make noise and perhaps steal that last wild card spot. That's what makes this matchup a must-win. The UP cannot fall behind on Omega Conference losses, and they need to get this win against the Twins. Emmanuel Sanders should be back. I think he did get nicked up a little bit, but there's really no concern about him missing time. The biggest name in this matchup is Cooper Kupp. Is Cooper Kupp going to play? If Cooper Kupp plays, that really makes a big difference for the United Players, because he's actually a very huge part of the Rams offense. So it's going to be interesting to see if Kupp is allowed to get in the mix. Now on the Twins side, Aaron Rodgers is going to play the New England Patriots. And Aaron's just not having the season that he's had in past years. He's not, throwing for big yardage totals. He's not throwing a bunch of TDs. And the Packers are just pretty pedestrian, and it's starting to affect Aaron Rodgers. Antonio Brown's another guy who has seen better days. I mean, most of the Twins roster has seen better days. Now, they did trade for Latavius Murray, who is running very, very well right now, and I expect that he'll play good against the Detroit Lions. That being said, looking at this matchup, I'm gonna call the upset here. Even though the Twins are struggling, I think that they can actually pull an upset here. I got Patty's Twins winning this matchup 118-112. Alrighty, moving on to our next matchup, we have the Baby Gas team taking on Only for the Boss. Alrighty, a lot of buys for the BGT this week, so they better pay attention and make some adjustments to their lineup. Obviously, Melvin Gordon's going to come back for them. He's their best player. They're going to need him back. And Cam Newton last week showed why he probably, they have so many good quarterbacks on the BGT that it's hard to say who they should start. But Cam Newton made a very, very good case for starting most of the way through. Looks like the BGT is going to have to make some moves at wide receiver. Both Larry Fitzgerald and T.Y. Hilton are on buys. No Dalvin Cook for another week, so the BGT will just roll with Mark Ingram and Melvin Gordon. Now on the only for the Boston side, it's Big Chiefin' all day. It's continuing to work. I mean, they left No Doubt 160 points. Highly impressive from the boss. And it's because of guys like Pat Mahomes. I mean, he's an orchestrator of that offense, and this guy's playing like a veteran. It's really impressive. We get a little bit of that Kansas City Chiefs every week, and it's just fun to watch. On top of the fact that it's really crazy to watch those points stack for the boss with one team. Now, Stephon Diggs did his thing towards the end of that matchup, and that played a huge role in helping the boss, get the win, or leave No Doubt, I should say. He was going to get the win pretty convincingly there. The Chiefs play the Cleveland Browns, which screams the boss. I've got the boss winning this matchup and staying strong in the Alpha Conference. I got the boss having another huge week, 130 to Baby Gas Team's 110. Alrighty, and we're going to stay in the Alpha Conference for the prestige matchup of the week as the 6-2 Mean Machine takes on the 6-2 Squad Underestimated. First place in the Alpha Conference is on the line, and the Argonauts are not involved in an Alpha Conference first place showdown. So kudos to Mean Machine and Squad Underestimated for, giving us something new. Obviously, Squad Underestimated has been the talk of the town. He lost in the poll of biggest surprise, and I think that's actually a sign of respect for Squad Underestimated, that some people did expect that Squad would have a good year this year. I'm looking at Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Obviously, Saquon will not be in the lineup, and that is a huge difference. I think that Saquon Barkley, his value to Squad Underestimated is probably more valuable than any other team's one player. Maybe Todd Gurley, you could argue for the gaff. But I would say Squad's dependence on Saquon is huge. Although I will give Adam Thielen some love. He has become a huge part of this team also. But this team, I think, is going to live and die with Saquon Barkley. Now, Christian McCaffrey gets a great matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that he'll have a lot of holes to run because Cam's going to be able to throw the football pretty much all over the yard. The Josh Gordon thing, it's kind of slow. It's not really coming to fruition as many would have hoped. He did have 4 catches last week, but you just expect more from that. You expect more big plays. When people whisper Randy Moss in comparison to this guy, you expect more than 4 catches. Jordan Reed's been a pretty good tight end play at certain points, but then at other points he's been nothing. I expected actually more from Jordan, being that he's in an offense with Alex Smith. Throwing him the football, and Alex is known to be a little more conservative and a little more tight end friendly, but Jordan just has not taken off this year. Now on the Mean Machine side, Kamara and Hunt remain in the lineup. That is a big plus for them because they don't have to worry about Saquon Barkley. Now they do lose out on Odell Beckham Jr., but they have a lineup of guys that are pretty solid, so they shouldn't really be worried about not having Odell for 1 week, as they still have the option of John Brown. They picked up DJ Moore, who was a pretty solid pickup, and Michael Thomas. So I mean, they're fine at the receiver spot. I'm loving Phillip Lindsay by the game. I'm really starting to see that this guy is a player. Now he is on the smaller side, so it's going to be interesting to see how he holds up as the season progresses deeper and deeper. But I mean, there's really no weakness on the Mean Machine, even in a bye week. There's no Andrew Luck, but Mitchell Trubisky's playing at a very, very high level. And this matchup screams the Mean Machine, and I'm going to go there. I got the Mean Machine winning the prestige matchup of the week, 135. I think they leave No Doubt. To the Squad Underestimated, it's 130. I think it's going to be close and high scoring, and everything that we're pumping it up to be. Alrighty, so we got the Mean Machine winning. Good luck to everyone. Have a good weekend. Be safe, and may the odds be ever in your favor.